Okay, we need to talk about what Red Giant tools inside of Autograph can do for you. We have seen that a little bit throughout this training course. We know that if we click on the modifiers list, we have this cool Red Giant icon denoting all of the Red Giant tools that you will see there if you have a Red Giant subscription. And there are a lot of them, over 100 of them currently here for you to enjoy. But let's talk about why you'd want to use them. I've broken this down into 5 categories: color, different noises, text, effects, and motion graphics. First, let's look at color. I have this layer selected, and if we want to play with color, you might have noticed that, we could use something like grade, which is kind of like the levels effect, but it has no histogram. And so you have these kind of esoteric controls like in white point, out white point, and without the aid of a histogram telling you what these points are doing, it's a little scientific. And maybe that's you, and that's great. Congratulations, that's amazing. But not everybody finds this to be super easy and helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. What we can do instead, if we have the Red Giant tools, is use a powerhouse like Magic Bullet Looks. And if we have Magic Bullet Looks installed and we go to the properties here with having it selected in the selection overview, we can click this Edit Look button. That will open the all-powerful Magic Bullet Looks window. And if it's not open, we can click on the word Looks. That will open this Looks panel. And then as we mouse over, we can get all these presets. Wow, that's gorgeous. Look at that. Oh, that's beautiful. And we can also change the categories. So maybe I want to look at blockbuster cool, or maybe I want to look at grunge or indie. I actually really like that blockbuster warm I was just looking at. Was that what it was? Blockbuster HDR maybe? No, it was blockbuster warm. Look at these presets. These are just like absolutely gorgeous. Now, again, kind of like with all of the rest of Autograph, I'm mousing over my these presets, and these are looking really snappy. I could find one that I like, and if I click it, it will actually apply this preset to my Magic Bullet Looks. And we can see all the various tools that are used here. And one of them, one of the most powerful that you'll see here is Colorista. And instead of having, numeric values for things like in white point and out white point, we have these nice color wheels. If we want to brighten the highlights, we can just go over here and brighten the highlights using this very intuitive visual control. We could also use these gizmos to remap colors and saturation and brightness. And we have these color curves and all of this here in this window. And this is just only one component of Magic Bullet Looks. I could also click the word Looks to close that Looks drawer, and then click on the scopes to see color scopes, vector scope, RGB waveform, etc. And I can check this out and use this to gauge the colors in my footage. I can also click tools over here and apply other tools for chromatic aberration, for optical diffusion, for whatever else I would like to tweak. And some other tools that we're familiar with, like Mojo that we've been using, are tools here inside of Magic Bullet Looks. So again, in color, as with all the other things we're going to be looking at, Red Giant extends what Autograph can do. Now, this is absolutely gorgeous, but I'm going to go ahead and press the X key without saving just to close this. I could also use Mojo, as we've looked at before with the soccer player in the intro project. Select this footage, apply Mojo, and there we have it. I mean, it's kind of tough to create when you have this really washed out footage. And again, if you know what you're doing as you're a scientist, you know about the in white point, out white point, and know the difference there and how those are remapped, then that's great. But for a lot of folks, that's a little bit challenging. And so then you have an effect like Mojo, which is great, which has these terms like bleach it and fade it and punch it. So then you could kind of, vignette it. These terms that kind of make more sense to us and aren't as kind of abstract or scientific. And we have the before the Mojo and after the Mojo. Now, noise is another place that Red Giant tools can help us immensely. I mean, as we've seen throughout this entire course, noise is just one of the most valuable tools for visual effects, for compositing, for motion graphics, for anything you want to do that is digital art. Noise allows you to create randomness and patterns and a whole bunch of other things. And so being able to use noise effectively is really a powerful thing in your arsenal. And the noise in Autograph is great. It's fantastic. But sometimes there are kind of, again, more esoteric parameters, like it refers to the layers of noise as octaves instead of complexity, which is sometimes a little bit more common. And we also have these properties like level that maybe are a little bit more abstract and hard to figure out. And so the Red Giant tools give you some other options. For one, you have turbulent noise. And turbulent noise allows you to create, fractal noise. And there's all different kinds of noise types and interpolation methods. Like, again, this like plasma one, and I could go into appearance, which is a word that makes a lot of sense to me. And I can adjust the contrast and the brightness. Again, these are words that mean something to me and make sense. And we can adjust them. And again, it's a little bit easier to understand as we play with them. An even more simple but also very powerful noise tool in the Red Giant collection is fractal background. And fractal background is kind of unique because it allows you to use a color map and remap a color gradient to your map immediately right here. So not just one color, but 3 colors mapped to your shadows, midtones, and highlights built in. And again, we have simple controls here, but they are also a little bit easier to understand. Instead of levels and gamma, we have brightness. Fractal background also has a text area. So if you have a text that you want to bring in, you can create almost like a lower third. And so if you want to create like a block of text for that, you can adjust where you want that. Vertically, and you want that to be like a lower third. And that can be just like built in to your fractal background. There's also just a built-in mask with feathering. So a lot of nice shortcuts, easy to understand, easy to use stuff when it comes to noise, as with everything else. Text is also greatly benefited. There are a bunch of text effects. I decided not to go into that because that's just a huge can of worms and I get really excited about it. So I figured I would kind of overdo it. So I wanted to take kind of, simple lines and shapes and polish some Red Giant tools to show you what I'm talking about. So on the text, there is this really cool effect in the Red Giant collection called luster, which creates a gradient and also creates this kind of so it's almost like bevel and emboss, but like the next generation of bevel and emboss, where it creates this kind of glass text and also creates this jaggedy gradient, so that makes text look like it's on shiny glass or shiny chrome, and pop a little bit of glow. And look at that. I mean, that is just absolutely gorgeous. Tick off all the modifiers, this FX icon before and after. And then with the lines, I added the fractal background effect that we just looked at with a bunch of gradients. You can see these gradient stops there, and then put some glow onto that. And hey, we're cooking a little bit here. And I created an adjustment layer and added some color correction, and then added another universe effect from Red Giant here called Glimmer, which takes highlights and creates a star around them. So, and then we have our kind of glowy points emanating from them, like we have here. These are spiky highlights. And so now we have this really classy text, super easy to animate, all right here in Autograph. And this kind of thing would be really challenging to create on its own in Autograph. Now, let's talk about creating cool effects. This is an area where Red Giant truly, truly shines. Now, I've imported the circles from before. These should look familiar as they grow on there. And to this, we could apply a series of effects. One of my favorites actually, I'm going to type in ecto, short for ectoplasm from Ghostbusters. And just the default settings even, without even tweaking this is just really cool. It adds this kind of distortion to lines and also this kind of fog kind of thing coming off, which is just creates a really cool effect. And I love it that you don't have to do much to it. You don't have to really tweak it too much. I mean, obviously you can. We can shrink this down, whatever, but there's distortion, there's glow, and it's also already animated. So it took these lines that look like, kind of sacred geometry type stuff and instantly turned this into some kind of like ghost hunter promo. Another one of the most popular effects in the Red Giant suite are all of the stylization effects that you can apply. And again, these are just kind of really difficult to recreate on your own, especially ones like my favorite VHS, which really samples well VHS tapes. And the color treatment on VHS tapes and the damage to them. So I could open up tape damage. I'll take this to bad tracking, open up tape wrinkle, add some wrinkle distortion, and then look at this. Look at this. This is so good. So something like this would just be impossible to recreate because this was, created meticulously by scanning VHS players and their actual noise and their actual color lookup tables and everything else to get an accurate depiction. So if you want to make something look like it's VHS footage very quickly, and this is the way to go. And there are tons of other effects that could make your footage look like bad 90s digital video or, really nice film from the 60s. All that stuff kind of built in here with the Red Giant tools. So there's before and after. Another popular effect here, if I turn on my washed out aerial footage that I applied Mojo to earlier, is the glitch effect, which creates these kind of like transmission artifacts. And as I now play this, you can see it auto animates where we have these big glitches, these small glitches. There's also some compression artifacts happening in the background on the footage, and the colors have been shifted as well. And all of this stuff in Glitch is customizable, and we can fiddle with, again, the wide glitches, the small glitches, the compression amount, and all that kind of stuff. And we also have the motion graphics tools that I wanted to mention. HUD components is one of my favorite. I just created a constant, just Shift Q, and just create a constant, which again is just like a flat solid. It needs a generator to apply to because these are modifiers. It needs a layer of some kind. So just create a constant layer and apply these effects. So I applied HUD components, and HUD components allows us to create all kinds of really cool techie type graphics. And these are all built in. I could go into HUD components. I can make 4 different elements here. I can go to my browse elements dropdown, and a pop-up comes up, and maybe I want something different here. Maybe I want this little like hex corner thing, so I can click apply. And that's pretty cool. Maybe I'll go to transform here and scale this up a little bit. Then I could go into this animation, and I could use a built-in animation, Orbit 2D. I guess these aren't quite as impressive when you're working with Autograph and you have like these generators and modifiers. But nonetheless, very easy just to choose these from a drop-down. You can, blink these layers or these components, flicker them, do a bunch of stuff like that, which is really handy. Also, as part of each element, you can clone them. You can create a series of clones, offset them, and so forth, all built into the tool, which is really awesome. Another effect that I love, has like a sad name, but is so helpful, is line, which basically creates a line that has an arrowhead, or can have an arrowhead or another shape at the beginning, and can easily animate. And if you've ever had to do this before, it is just so difficult. So I could take the draw on value and just animate this on, and look at how that arrowhead just follows the end of that line. That's so difficult to do. If you've ever needed to do that, if you ever need just a quick little thing to point something out in a video, you just need like a little hey, it's over here. This is the thing that I'm talking about. Then line is just the greatest answer, the greatest solution for that. I'm going to open up Bezier, and I could change the Bezier style to maybe like 4-point Bezier. And then I could go in here and get these points, and I can, make this travel in a wonky shape if I want to. So now when I draw this on, I could have it go like, so I could have it curve around. Again, trying to do this on your own is just so difficult. And here you have it. It works great. And lastly, we have Progresso, which is a great tool for creating any kind of like progress charts, pie charts, any kind of thing with like data, temperature, controls, that kind of thing happens over time. I just go to the progress value and adjust this, and this is all built in. Now, if all of this wasn't enough to sell you on Red Giant, another thing that is absolutely incredible is that you'll see in almost all of these effects this choose a preset button. I click choose a preset and it launches the preset browser and shows me all the available presets for that effect. So if I want to get familiar with what Progresso can do, for example, here are a bunch of different presets of different categories. So, I mean, the pie charts look completely different than these kind of like power up horizontal linear bars. And same thing with these like radial controls, these arcs, these power ups. Also, if I put my mouse over them, I see the animation of that preset, which is really, really fantastic. And again, it's visual, which a lot of times in Autograph we don't get. It is a more technical program in some ways. I'll go back to HUD components, which, I just had that one little simple arc. But if I go to HUD components and I go to choose a preset, you could see that we have a massive collection of presets that are really varied, and they are auto animating, a lot of them here, fingerprint scan, some really cool stuff going on. And we could apply them all from right here, just select it and apply the preset. Again, tons of variations and stuff to explore here. And the same as with all these plugins. If we go back to noise and we go to fractal background and we select fractal background, we go to choose a preset. And here we have all those presets, all those beautiful color presets, even text strip presets, and all of that business. I can also save my own presets. As you'll see that this one doesn't have a great thumbnail, but I created my own user presets and those show up at the bottom as well, which is really handy. Now, some other really cool things about Red Giant in Autograph. Now, so far we've been looking at these tools through this modifier, and these icons are lit up in color, which is very handy, very helpful, very nice. But there is another way to browse presets and effects for Red Giant in Autograph, and that is with Maxon Studio. So this very inviting Maxon Studio button, just click this and that will open up Maxon Studio. And here we have a list of all of the categories of effects. So if you are looking for something in the motion graphics world, I can click on motion graphics and see all of the different effects. And if I want to get even more familiar with them, like we did with the Progresso effect and HUD components just a moment ago, let's say I want to learn what this array gun does. I can click this little kind of like, I don't know, is like an alien absorbing something. I'm sure that's not what it's supposed to be, but kind of looks like that's what it is. But I can apply it from here if I want to with this plus button, or I can click this presets button, the alien thing sucking up something, I guess. Click this button, and then here we have all of these presets for a ray gun. And by browsing these, you can kind of get a better sense of what this tool exactly does, what this modifier is going to do for you, and know if it's going to work or not. And from here, you could also, again, hit the plus icon and apply the presets from here as well. So I'll go back to plugins from here. And again, I can go to stylize. There's Ecto, there's Analog and AV Club for creating these kind of like vintage looks, or Holomatrix for creating hologram type looks. There's the luster that I mentioned before. There's color tools in the color section. Just a really great way to see what you're doing in Autograph, which is something that kind of is lacking a little bit with Autograph. There's not as much visual representation of things, and so that can be a challenge sometimes. And if I go to stylize, and let's say I'll click on the Ecto itself, the block here, we get some details about it. And then we have this example tab, and this gives us examples of the effect in motion. And also we can go to this overview button here, and there is a very brief video of how to use that particular tool. So here is a little guide for how to use Ecto, just to kind of get started. It's 41 seconds long. Just what you need to get started with Ecto. And same thing too, all these effects. So Chromatown, here's a 40-second intro to how to use Chromatown, how to get familiar with it, what it does, that kind of thing. So Maxon Studio really takes the Red Giant tools, makes them accessible, makes them understandable, makes them discoverable. It really is a tremendous resource for working in Autograph. I'm going to go ahead and close this for right now. I'm actually going to close by opening up the motion graphics project, turn off HUD components, go back to Progresso. Now, one of the things that we've been focusing on in this tutorial is what Red Giant brings to Autograph, what it contributes to Autograph. But another thing that's very important to keep in mind is what Autograph contributes to Red Giant tools. Because again, we're not using effects on a per layer basis, but we have generators and modifiers on a per parameter basis, then that automatically makes Red Giant tools more useful in Autograph than they are in other tools. So for example, the progress bar, I can go here to the generators and maybe I'll make an oscillate generator. And very quickly, I can take the amplitude maybe to 20, maybe take the frequency down to like 0.5, and I automatically have this like animating, oscillating progress bar of this temperature or this speed or whatever this is. Now I'm going to go back to Progresso and I'm going to open this up and we'll right click and remove oscillate. And just want to play with this a little bit more with the same progress value. Maybe I'll choose current time. And so then I can have this grow over time. And maybe I'll take this multiplier something bigger, 2. So now it's growing at a rate of 2, and it's using this current time to slowly creep up, which is awesome. And then I'll go back to Progresso and add a modifier to this. And maybe I'll add this modifier of add noise. So it's kind of like noise that we've seen. So we could choose the type of noise, Perlin noise or FBM or whatever. And I can also adjust the amplitude. And this is going to randomize these values. So it's still going to generate over time, but then the add noise modifier is going to modify or wiggle that value as it's going. So now it's slowly, steadily climbing, but it's also kind of like struggling a little bit. It's having a little bit of kind of, organic movement. Like, I think I can, So if you're trying to create this kind of like climbing thing that's kind of going back and forth, this is just super easy to do. So again, we're getting the most out of Autograph by having Red Giant in it, and also getting the most out of Red Giant by having all these features from Autograph with these generators and modifiers everywhere to help us out with our Red Giant tools as we're working. It really is a tremendous relationship between the two sets of tools. And it's one of the things I'm most excited about to see over time what the community can come up with using Red Giant tools and Autograph together.